forward. Alright, so we're going to mix this color up. I'm going to use mostly white. It's a 2-to-1 system, 2 parts paint, 1 part reducer. So we're painting the surfboard right now, and the surfboard is mainly white. It's got a little bit of like a creamish hue to it. So I'm going to be tinting it with this little bit of off-white. It almost looks like a really light tan color to give it that off shade. So 2-to-1. So pretty much just bright white. So I went a little bit over on the 2-to-1. Some people do it, I mean, it's recommended to go 2-to-1. I have heard some people go to 1-to-1 on it, depending on what you're spraying. So you want to try to see about getting this to a creamish white. It's not just straight white. It's got a little bit of a tint to it. It needs a little bit more. And this was just paint I had left over from a previous job. And I really over-reduced it. That way it won't overkill what we're trying to do here. And you honestly probably won't notice a difference of it being a little off-white, because everything we used on the side of the van has some sort of a gray tone to it. So I'm trying to keep it within that realm of toning everything more towards a little bit of a gray side. I know like I said, the surfboard's got like a little bit of a tan tint to it. But I don't want to spray this bright white and have it really stand out amongst everything else. I want it to kind of fit in with everything. Because it's a pretty good size. You guys saw it. It's a pretty decent size, so it. And that's just my air compressor in the background going off. And you want to really if you're tinting a color, I've always been told to do it at like 5% increments. Sometimes if you know it's really going to take a lot, you can do 10%. Because you can always put more in. You necessarily can't take it out. And I'm liking it where it's at. Alright, I think we're going to go with that right there. I'm going to double check it in the light. No, it actually needs a little bit more. I said you can always put more in, necessarily can't take it out. Unless you're really good with toning colors. But you always want to try to make it easier on yourself. Alright, I think a little bit more. Try to kill that bright white out of it. Just a little bit. Because House of Color, everything I use is House of Color if you didn't know. And their white is really super bright. And every white's got a, you know, it's got a little bit of blue in it, a little bit of black in it. Some whites have yellow in it. Depending on what kind of white you're spraying, it's not just plain white. So being it just plain white, it's really, really bright. So we're just toning it down a little bit. And if I spray this and I see that it's too much, we can always add more. And the gun I'm using, I've got the version 2 PPS cups that I always use. They're really nice because you just mix your color right in them, and they've got the, if you need the chart on them, they got charts on the cups themselves. And then I'm using my Supernova. I believe this has got a 1.3 tip on it. It might be a 1.2, I can't remember. One of these, I've got like 5 of these guns, and one of them is my clear coat gun, and I know it's a 1.2. But being a 1.3 will work just fine. So let's get to spraying this. So my first coat, your first coat when you do this, when you're doing a large area like this, that's actually masked off for any type of graphic or whatever you may be doing. The first coat you want to do it kind of light. That way it doesn't build up a really thick edge. And you want the paint, you don't want to do it heavy either, because the heavier you do it, it's going to start bleeding underneath the tape. So you want to try to prevent that, and you want it to actually stick. So you want to do a little light coat until it gets tacked off all the way, and then you can kind of hammer it on from after that. So I've already taken some reducer and wax and grease remover, and I'm on a rag, and I just kind of wipe that line away, and just so it's not so heavy in there from when we did the ocean part. That way when I spray this, you're not going to see that line. It wasn't really heavy to begin with, but just in case, I ended up just taking a little bit of, like I said, reducer and wax and grease mixed together, and it's not so powerful where it's going to leave a mark or take a lot off. It just takes a little bit off at a time, so you're able to kind of fade it out. And here's the time to check all your tape. Make sure all your tape is lined up and sticking, nothing's raised up. And tack it off really well. Just want to double check everything before you start spraying, because when you start spraying, you can't go back. I'm spraying at a really low air pressure so I don't kill myself. And you might hear the compressor kick on in the background. It's pretty loud. But that's pretty much like your first coat, like you want to do. You don't want to do it too heavy. You don't want to do it too terribly light where it's rough. You want to get it smooth. And I always try to air dry everything. Air dry and a little bit of heat. It'll make this flash even faster. So it's already pretty much tacked off, so we're doing another coat. And sometimes you got to check everything to make sure your tape is still laying down, because sometimes that wetness of the paint will lift it. You always want to, if you're doing something really large, if you step away from a few feet from it and actually look at it compared to everything else to make sure you like it before you actually finish with it, it helps a bunch. Now this surfboard isn't just white. As you guys, if you guys saw the photo on my phone, it actually has kind of like a wood graphic going through it with two orange stripes against it, and it's got a like a purplish blue circle and some words on it. So we're gonna put some of that on this, but not all of it. So it's not gonna be just a white surfboard sticking out at you. We're gonna add a little bit of color to it. So here's the surfboard all in base coat. I actually went back and after everything dried and I stepped back and looked at it, I thought it was just too much as far as like the bright white goes. So what I went and did was I made up a new batch, and I took the original gray that's on the van and put a little bit in it, just enough to tint it. It's still really bright. When you stand back, it like takes over the whole van pretty much. But I think with adding color to this, when we're done with it, it's going to be obviously stand out, but it's going to blend in really nicely, because now it's like it's a lighter, it's a really, really, really light gray instead of like a really light whitish cream color, I guess. So I like this a lot better than what it was. So I'm going to let this dry, because like I said, this is going to get the graphics put on the board. So we can't really tape over it tonight. It's getting kind of late, so I'm going to call it quits right here and just going to let it sit overnight, let it do its thing, and then tomorrow when I come back in here, I'll be able to tape it off, put the colors down that I need, and we can have this thing done by tomorrow night, which would be awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. This wasn't really too much of a pain to actually try to get fine lined and masked off. It's just one big shape, so it's not too crazy to do like some of these flames in here. But by the time we add everything to it, it's going to look really good. And then we're going to be adding more to this. This isn't the end of it just yet. We got a lot more to go, and then we got to do the back side of the van too. So a lot's to come. So I'm going to call it quits, like I said here, and call it a night, and we will see you guys in the morning.